right, welcome everybody to our media folks. Thank you for joining us once again. Today's call is for tomorrow's WNBA Commissioner's Cup Championship game presented by Coinbase. And we are joined by three of the announcers on the crew: Lisa Byington handling the play-by-play, Tamika Catchings, and LaChina Robinson, who will be handling the analysis. And we're going to go right to Q&A. I see many of you have already got the raised hand function in order. We're going to go to Kent Youngblood first. Kent, you're up. You're going to be followed by Charles. Kent.
Good morning. This question is for any of the panel, but maybe particularly Ms. Robinson. Do you guys view the Lynx as maybe the biggest surprise team in the league so far this season, as we're just a little bit more at a third way through the regular season?
Ron, you want me to start?
Yeah, I'm trying to go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Kent. Absolutely. When I make my list of surprises so far this season, Minnesota is number one. And I guess we should stop underestimating the GM and coaching abilities of Cheryl Reeve, because clearly she's very proven. But yeah, this team has definitely surprised me. I did not expect to see them anywhere close to the top of the standings, trying to implement new pieces, just everyone getting on the same page, looking at the other rosters and the experience, quite honestly, of other teams in the W and teams that have been playing together and had cohesiveness already on deck. I've been impressed with Minnesota, and I hope that this Commissioner's Cup game is an opportunity for the world to be awakened to what is happening in Minneapolis. Nafisa Collier is no doubt an MVP candidate. Kayla McBride is playing the best basketball, I believe, of her career. And the ancillary pieces, the compliments, Alana Smith continues her improvement. I mean, we saw this in Chicago, but I think the way that she is playing defensively is so underrated. Courtney Williams finally really taking the reins of the point guard spot after resisting it for so many years and making it hers. Like there's so many fantastic storylines across the board. Bridget Carlton and how she has carved out a space in this league and has a bright future in the WNBA. I could not be more impressed and surprised by what we're seeing so far for Minnesota. And I'm happy that they will be elevated in this opportunity to play in the Commissioner's Cup Championship.
One quick follow-up. The Lynx have gone from a team that very rarely shot threes to one of the best free throw shooting teams in the league. Part of that's obviously personnel, but they have, I think, 4 of the top 10 percentage shooters in the league. How difficult is it to completely kind of change, from being the Sil Fowles dominated inside out team to a team that plays 5 out at times?
Is that me or
anybody in that? Yeah.
Actually, want to jump in?
I'm sorry, I can't hear him very well.
Okay.
Kent, go ahead. Can't say that one more time, a little bit louder, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to ask about the impressions of the Lynx having gone from a team that didn't shoot the three much to one of the best 3 shooting teams in the league. Just how difficult that is, and I know a lot of it is personnel based, but it seems like the Lynx have completely reformatted the way they attack, the scoring part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback off of what LaChina just said. The addition of the new players coming in and the comfort that they're playing with. But a lot of it starts with their leader, Nafisa. I mean, how she's playing, and I would even go the way Kayla McBride is playing right now, the way she's shooting the ball. But you've seen it spread out across the team. Carlton stepping up, hitting some big threes. A lot of people stepping up into different roles. But a lot of it comes from the way that they move the ball. They pass the ball. They work really, really well together. And when you're moving the ball that fast, nobody really cares who gets the credit. You can tell by the way they play.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to turn next to Charles. Charles, you're going to be followed by Megan. Charles.
Thank you. This is for all three. If you could answer this question, what is that both teams are playing for a lot of money, and that money, some of that money will be donated to their favorite charity. Is that fact is not talked about enough? And can you speak on the fact that how the WNBA continues to lead in such efforts that could be a blueprint for other teams, other leagues to do the same.
All right, Lisa, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Charles. I think one of the great things about this league is how aware they are about contributing back to the communities, about social justice. We have seen year in and year out where the WNBA has just taken a leadership role in all of those areas. And I do think the Commissioner's Cup is another great way to bring attention to all the great things that the WNBA has done, is doing this year, and has done in the past. And I know we've had the in-season tournament in the NBA that has brought a different kind of attention to that league. And again, I think riding off the coattails of the things that the WNBA is doing, it's important to understand, and I'm glad you brought it up, Charles, is that it's important to understand that this is not just a basketball game. And yeah, we're going to see number 1 versus number 3 right now in the standings in the league. But we're also bringing, it's a chance, in my opinion, to also just bring a bigger stage to what the WNBA is all about, and recognizing the importance of the community, contributing to charities is just one way that the WNBA has been so great as a league and a leader in all of those fronts.
I think it was really prominent when we were in the bubble. When we were in the bubble, that was something that the league did a really good job of making sure that the players were able to select the organization that they wanted to support. And you've seen it again, you've seen it year after year with just how the league has done such a great job of making sure that the voices of the players continue to ring. And in every single thing that they do, being able to provide the money. I mean, I own a nonprofit, so I know the work it takes to be able to do the work that they do continuously. So it's been really great watching the league continue to do that, and watch the players continue to get invested as a whole, but then also their individual opportunities of the support that they have for different organizations.
Yeah, and Charles, I echo the sentiments of Lisa and Catch, but what I'm excited about is for people to learn about the different organizations that they're playing for. New York, the Women Creating Change; Minnesota, Gender Justice. Those specific organizations were picked for a reason. There are causes that these women are very passionate about, and more so than, okay, this is who won the money. I hope this is a chance for people to look deeper into the work that those organizations are doing and the causes that these women are getting behind and why they are getting behind them.
Thank you to all 3 of you.
All right, thanks. Going to turn next to Megan. Megan, you're going to be followed by Jackie.
Yeah, hey everyone, good morning. This question is actually for Tamika. Tamika, for you, you mentioned earlier that Fee is having an MVP caliber season. From your lens, what makes her season so special?
I think when you look at just the makeup of that team, kind of piggybacking off what LaChina said earlier, like they have 6, 7 new players come in, and you're having to figure out how you're going to maneuver, different roles with a different team, with a different lineup. But I think she's really elevated her game to another level, and she's doing it consistently, but then also within the flow of the offense. It's not like she's forcing up shots. It's not defensively, she stepped up her game. Offensively, one of the things she talked about is working on her 3-point game and being more efficient from that area. But you're seeing it across the way that she's playing right now.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to turn next to Jackie. Jackie, you're going to be followed by Ben. Jackie.
Hi all. Thanks for being here. I think I'm going to start with Lisa. I'm curious how you believe New York has been able to play at the high level they've been playing at without 2 starters, and Courtney Vandersloot in particular, for a long time, and if this could have been a possibility last year.
I think we underestimate the playmaking ability of Sabrina Ionescu, and the fact that, I was actually, before this call, I was actually looking at her numbers in the 8 games that Sloot has been out. And, like super impressive. I think it's 21 points and 8 assists and only averaging like 3 turnovers and still shooting with an efficiency like 40% from 3-point territory. So, I think in the last few years, we've seen the evolution of Sabrina too, right? She was injured her rookie season, didn't get a whole lot of ability to be able to play in the league when she was young. So she had to go in the off season. She had to do a lot of rehab instead of working on, her skill development in the off season, which now she's been able to do in the off season. So I think the conversation starts there with Sabrina and how she's been able to still facilitate this offense. Real effectively. Now, the fact that, where I think you've seen a little bit of a drop off with New York is with their bench production. You've got, players like Thornton and Phoebish who have come into the starting lineup to replace Lainey Hamilton and to replace Vandersloot, and they've done an exceptional job in the starting roles. And so for me, as long as those two players are out, for me, the question is not can they fill the roles as the starting five and the starting group and the main rotation group, but what kind of bench support now? Who's going to step up on the bench, I think, is a better question for me. We know what Sabrina can do. She's shown in the last 8 games what she can do. The question for me is what can the bench production do to give that support that New York needs?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And for one of the analysts, I guess, about New York as well, I'm just curious how you've seen New York's offense grow stronger year over year. Is there something like an action that they're running this year that maybe has been more effective?
Cash, you want to take it or you want me?
You got it.
Okay. Yeah, their offense continues to evolve, in my opinion, because this is a team that is played together longer. Their chemistry has gotten stronger over time. So I think the more comfortable you are playing with each other, we start to see more layers to every individual's games. For example, Jonquel Jones being the facilitator that she's been, right? We forget that she played point guard growing up. And then had a growth spurt all the way to 6'6". So she's had that ability, but now she's more comfortable with her teammates. Obviously, the absence of Sloot has opened up the opportunity for her to do more and to be more. Sabrina's evolution as an individual player, like I think, when pieces are evolving individually and then they come together, that's where you really find different layers, new layers of your offense, different things you can run, just familiarity with each other's game. So that's what I would credit that to is really just individual players' comfort, them comfortable as a group and evolving to a space where they have different options on the offensive end.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We're going to go next to Ben. Ben, you're going to be followed by Tina. Ben.
Yeah, just building off of that, a question for you, Tamika. New York, as LaChina was saying, has talked a lot about chemistry and continuity this year. I guess just reflecting on your playing days, and maybe this is a general question, like what are the specific ways that you see chemistry and continuity translate to on-court production? Like what details specifically do you pick up on of a team that has chemistry and continuity on both ends?
For New York or for Minnesota?
Just in general, like what are you watching when you see a team that has chemistry and continuity? What are you seeing differently?
Well, I think one of the big things is how they respond to one another on the court. Both teams are playing really, really good basketball. They're passing the ball, they're moving, they're cutting. When you look at a New York, and both ladies just talked about the absence of star players being out there, Benijah not able to play, Vandersloot out for a few games. When you look at those two, other players have had to step up. So now you get to see a Sabrina in action. You get to see Jonquel, with her point guard skills and such. Stewie's going to do what she does, and all of the other supporting players are filling those gaps in between. Minnesota, you go to them, and I feel like from the starting five to the bench players that are coming in, the consistency. One thing we always would talk about is when we make substitution, which New York doesn't have that many right now, but when you look at Minnesota, when you make substitution, you don't want to see a drop-off in the play of the game. And you're seeing that there's a consistency. I mean, obviously Coach Reed knows how to coach her game and how to get the best out of her players, but every single player is responding. When I look back at the year that we had success, it was when players knew their role. When they came in, they gave 100% for whatever minute, whether they played a minute to 5, 10, 15 minutes or more, and then just how we played together as a team, supporting one another. There's going to be highs and lows throughout the game. You haven't seen Minnesota falter under that. You've seen them actually play harder and do more. Same thing with New York. Players go out, team band together, players step up into those different roles. And I think it's going to be a really exciting game tomorrow because both teams are playing at such a high level.
All right, we'll turn next to Tina. Tina, go ahead.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you everyone for being here. Tamika, this is a specific question for you. And I know this has been the narrative all season with the growth, the viewership in the league and attendance, just, blowing the numbers out. But you played in 2008 for the Fever against the Liberty in another WNBA game, played in Queens, and it was outdoors at Arthur Ashe Stadium at the USTA Tennis Center. How far have you seen just the league come from then? And just what was your biggest memory of playing that game, and and how it's evolved into this big buildup to, a game like this in Queens, and how things have changed tremendously in a great direction for growth of the league?
It's been awesome. As a fan, as a former player, just the role that I sit in and being able to now be in Indiana and watch the evolvement of basketball, and of course with, Caitlin, Aaliyah, Melissa, like our team here. I really enjoyed seeing the players get we finally are getting what the coverage, the viewership, the support that should have been there. But thinking about that game, the difference is we didn't have social media. We didn't have social media. We didn't have, everything was still snail mail, snail news and everything else. So if you weren't there in the moment, you didn't get that feeling. And I haven't gone back to even watch the footage. I'm sure it was kind of grainy compared to what it is now, right? But I think what an amazing experience for these players. The way that the viewership this year, just the numbers that continue, and you've seen that growth. It's like this year, obviously, it jumped a little bit more than it has in the past, but we've seen that continuous growth, and you've seen the players respond to it. Excited about the 4th year for the Commissioner's Cup, and just even way back when Kathy Engelbert was talking about, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you guys think? And it was like, we're going to do another tournament on top of what we're already doing. But to see that evolve, to see the money that's attached, to see the organizations that these players want to support and get to support through their play, like I said, as a fan and as a former player, I'm excited about what these young ladies have been able to do, how they carried the league to new heights, and they continue to open up doors and opportunities for our future generations.
Tamika, for fun, do you have any memories from that game that just stand out the most, playing on the court at Arthur Ashe Stadium?
I don't remember. I don't really remember. I think just in the beginning, and this is how I am, when they announced our names and what, like, the fact that we are outside, what Arthur Ashe means for all of us, and the opportunity to be the first team ever in WNBA history. And even to go back at Tennessee, we had the opportunity to do the first outdoor game in Phoenix. So that was, kind of piggybacking off of that. And then you get to the WNBA. But I don't remember the game. I know it was physical. I think just being able to be the first in anything just means a lot.
Thank you so much. And real quick, just real specific for LaChina, what matchup should we look out for that's going to be a great head-to-head maybe on the court tomorrow night?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, we do so much switching now in the WNBA. I don't know how many true head-to-heads there are, but I would say definitely in the post. And that extends from Jonquel Jones to Nafisa Collier to Alana Smith. Like, I am always intrigued by what's happening in the paint. That's maybe by nature because I played in the post. But just how dynamic post quote players are and how much those positions have evolved over time, the versatility of their skill sets. I mean, there's nowhere on the floor that Jonquel Jones at 6'6" and Nafisa Collier is 6'1" can't score. I mean, in the paint, around the bucket, they can stretch the floor from the three. Just the variety of moves and ways that they can impact the game. My eyes will be definitely on the post play, in particular, those two players. Not that they'll necessarily match up against each other, but those are two on each side that I'll definitely be keeping our hands on. And I do think that Alana Smith could impact defensively on Jonquel Jones if that's her assignment.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
All right, we're going to turn next to Howard. Howard, you'll be followed by Jordan. Howard, then Jordan.
Lisa, LaChina, Tamika, it's great to see all of you.
Oh.
Tamika, I've got a couple for you. LaChina, I've got one for you as well. Tamika, I just want to start with you had the opportunity, obviously, to go up against the very best Minnesota teams of the 2010s. And I'm wondering where you see overlap, because obviously it's totally different personnel, but in what ways is this Minnesota team like those teams that were also similarly #1 in the league in defensive rating?
Well, I think, it's hard to do the comparison, right? Because when you look at future Hall of Famers that we went up against in Minnesota back when I played, but even now, I know we talk a lot about Fee, but Kayla McBride, stepping up, Carlton, really, what she's able to do. I think one of the things that Coach Reeve has done a good job of over the years is she knows how to utilize all of her players. And even from the star moments, Rebecca Brunson, I think her and Katie Smith even being on the bench with Elaine Powell, that right there is the epitome of Elaine Powell. Detroit Shock was our nemesis, but what she brings to that coaching staff. You got Katie Smith, obviously we know what she does, and Rebecca, but you got the best players, former players now on the coaching staff. What they are infusing into these players and teaching them how you can play together, how there's enough shots for everybody. When you move the ball, when you get that opportunity, and you look at the 5 that we played against with Minnesota, that's what it was. Like, who are you gonna help off of? You try to bring a help off of Brunson, well then Brunson gets hot. You try to bring that, never gonna bring it off of Myers, so let's not even think about her, but maybe off of Way, and then Way starts attacking. So I think one of the great things that Minnesota has right now is the confidence level. And I listened to one of the interviews that K-Mac did the other day, and she was just saying the confidence level that the team has in her, but it's the same thing. They all filter that into each other. So that's why they're all able to be as successful as they are.
That makes a lot of sense. And just the other part, to take you to a different part of memory lane, July 2016, you're in Madison Square Garden. There's a decision made by you guys, along with the New York Liberty, to have a media blackout post-game and talk about Black Lives Matter in a different way than the league has really talked about it before. And I guess I look at that as sort of a turning point moment in the league, when you see now we are at a point where the league is explicitly in support of specific charities, specific causes. And what I wonder from you is whether you think, if not for that moment, if not for that period of time, whether the league would be where it is today, whether the growth we're seeing is even possible.
Yeah, Howard, that's a great point. We go back to 2016 when people were saying, don't speak up, just play basketball. And as a choice with the players, we were like, no, that's not what we need to speak up about issues that are affecting majority of the WNBA when you look at African-American players. So to have that, but I think it's the inclusiveness of the whole league and being able to support it. It wasn't just the African-American players, it was everybody all together. And being able to make that stand, then you fast forward to obviously getting to the wobble, which I talked about, and the support there. And I think at that point too, it was more of a partnership with the W. So 4 years later, I feel like it was more of a partnership and more of an intentionality. Even being in the wobble, I remember having those discussions with the players and having the discussion with the league and the coaching staff, intentional conversation, which now 4 years later, you're still seeing the effects of 2016, 2020, 21, and beyond.
No doubt about it. Thank you. And last one, LaChina, for you, if I could, you mentioned about JJ, about the fact that not only has she been dominant inside, but facilitating as well. Fee is having the kind of year where certainly it seems like she's part of these MVP conversations. But I wonder, is there an MVP conversation to be had in a season where A'ja Wilson is doing the things that she's doing, in your mind at this point? Obviously a long way to go. Or is it A'ja is at the top of that conversation, then we're talking with those two, with AT, with Stewie, with others around the league, rounding out the all WNBA team, rather than the three-headed race we had last year? Oh, I've got you muted.
My bad. Right now, Asia Wilson has definitely created separation in this conversation. She has just been head and shoulders above, in my opinion, with the performances she's put on, and it's the consistency night in and night out at what she's played, and in particular with them being shorthanded and her having to do even so much more in the absence of Chelsea Gray. But it's still early, right? So while Nafisa Collier to me is 1B right now, even though it's a little distant, there's still time, whether it's AT or Jonquel or others to push into that conversation. But I just can't say enough about the way Asia has played so far in the season and the things that she's doing. I mean, her evolving her perimeter game. I had a conversation where I talked about the 3 areas that I thought that she's improved the most, and it's definitely been her strength and endurance, her ability to just be so well conditioned and fit on both ends of the floor, her decision making in the post, how quickly she catches the ball and catches the defense. Keeps the defense guessing in terms of what she's going to do, but she's very quick and decisive in what she's doing. And then finally, her mid-range game, like her face-up game is exceptional compared to where it was when she's coming in the league, when she came into the league. So those are 3 areas that I see the most improvement in her over time. That's allowed her to be as dominant as she is right now. But we all know what the real driver is, and that's the 4th place vote. So she continues to use that as a point of motivation. But I'm going back to even Tina's question about, matchups in this Commissioner Cup. Look at the power forward positions in this league and how dynamic they are in the center positions. Stewie, and that's going to be great in this matchup. Stewie and Jonquel and Nafisa, and you can add even Asia to that, who does it in a different way. But Tamika Catchings was a trailblazer in what the power forward position could do, and all the different ways they could impact the game. So excited for Asia and how she's playing right now, and hopefully tomorrow Stewie and Jonquel and the rest of the game will continue that conversation around that particular position and the level of versatility.
Thanks, LaChina. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks. We have time for just a couple more. Going to turn to Jordan. Jordan, go ahead.
Hello, so glad we were all able to do this call today. So my first question is for LaChina. I wanted to ask about Minnesota's bench. They've been really good for this season. So I just wanted to quickly ask, what's been one player off Minnesota's bench that has stood out to you and what they've done on both ends of the floor?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again? I was having a little trouble hearing you.
No problem. So I wanted to ask about Minnesota's bench. They've been really great for them to start the season. So I just wanted to ask, who's been one player off their bench that has stood out on both ends of the floor?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think the most important player off of the bench in my mind moving forward, and I know she has struggled a little bit with her shooting, but I really think it's going to be Natisha Heidemann. She's a player that I have long just admired from afar and everything that she brings to the game, and she struggled a little bit with her 3, but I think she can continue to bring another dimension in terms of the pace of Minnesota, how they get up and down the floor. Obviously, she can spread the floor as well. And, even though 3-point shooting has been fine to date, I do think that as the season gets long, she's the kind of player that can, penetrate off of the bounce, get into the middle of the floor, play make. So I hope that she continues to evolve in what she's doing. But I've seen a lot of impressive things from Dorka Juhas as well. I know she was a little bit late to the party. But I really think that, what she brings in terms of her skill set. I mean, one of her early games, I remember she hit like a ton of threes, a barrage of threes. And I was like, okay, Dorka's ready to fit into the system. She's looking good. So I think she'll have to continue her evolution as well. But I just believe that this is a team that no matter who steps between the lines, they have this confidence. They have the chemistry, and they are building the experience as a core group that I believe that will really help them a lot moving forward in what they're trying to accomplish.
And just a quick one for Tamika. So just real quick. So you played for a long time. You've had your fair share of battles against Minnesota. Just talk about the work Cheryl Reeve has done with this team this season.
I mean, Coach Reeve, we all know when she steps in, her expectation for her players, the way that she gets players to work together. You look at the success of this year with so many new players coming in, for them still to be gelling and gelling early. I mean, let's go back to the Minnesota versus New York game earlier in the season. Minnesota came out with the dub. And I mean, I think when you look at the roster, people probably looked at New York beating Minnesota. So, just to start off early, we talk a lot about the offensive end, but I mean, I'm a defensive player. So I want to even talk about the way Minnesota is playing together from the defensive end, leading the league in so many different categories. They're just a lot of fun to watch. And Coach Reed, not only focused on the offense and adding more three-point production to the team, but defensively really locking down on really locking it down in the defensive end.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, last one, if we can, real quick. Courtney, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning to all. This is the whole panel. I just wanted to ask, what was your guys' initial thoughts when the move from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn to the USB Arena to host the Commissioner's Cup title game?
I mean, it's always hard when you have to change venues, right? But under the circumstance, it kind of it is what it is. When you look at the Commissioner Cup, is based on which team wins and being able to host the Commissioner Cup there. So I guess in my opinion, we're playing basketball no matter what, right? So I think when you get that opportunity, it's still going to be a lot of fun. It's still going to be exciting. The biggest difference is it's not necessarily home court because you're not playing at home court, but I still think that having the opportunity to host it close to home, let's play basketball.
All right, thanks everybody. Just a reminder, tomorrow's Commissioner's Cup Championship game presented by Coinbase tips off at 8 p.m. on Prime Video. Streaming live on Prime Video with Lisa LaChina, Tamika, and they'll be joined by Jess Sims. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.